I would like to start with reading a quote from Nelson Mandela, a hero of mine. This quote says, "I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way, but I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come, but I can only rest for a moment."
My name is Fatima Lawson, and I am the Vice Chair of the Council on Black Minnesotans and also the Chair of the Human Rights Committee of the Council. I am grateful for the opportunity to address you this morning concerning House File 2173, a bill to increase the duties and funding of the Department of Human Rights. Joining me today are Amari Berdi and Tamara Martin, who will be giving you some practical as a testimony of what we're talking about. I'll keep my comments very short, and I'll be happy to answer questions. As you know, Minnesota legislature empowered the Council on Black Minnesotans to ensure that people of African heritage fully and effectively participate in and equitably benefit from the political, social, and economic resources, policies, and procedures of the state. Today, approximately 320,000 Minnesotans indicate that their race is Black or Black along with another race. There are 76,400 Black immigrants living in Minnesota, representing 23 African nations. When the first significant number of Blacks arrived in the free state of Minnesota, they essentially had nothing. Today, Black Minnesotans contribute following assets to our great state: strong cultural diversity, $3 billion in consumer spending alone and power, operate over 12,000 business enterprises with almost $1 billion in sales, employing about 10,000 people and generating annual payrolls of $258 million.
My purpose in being here is to support funding for increased human rights and civil rights enforcement in our state. I am a social worker, a mother, and a daughter of this great state of Minnesota. I'd like to say that I have a full-time job practicing in the career that I love, but that is not possible because I was wrongly terminated from my job 1 year ago. I was treated inequitably, humiliated, belittled, and threatened. When I was able to bear up under the pressure and continue to perform, false testimony was used to cause the loss of my employment. It is humbling sharing this with you in such a public manner, but I can move past momentary discomfort if my story will have a broader impact. After I lost my job, I reached out to many sources for assistance. I filed a complaint with my employer's Office of Equity and Diversity, but after being passed from one person to the next with no resolution, I decided to file my complaint with the Department of Human Rights. I also sought legal assistance. I reached out to the Council of Black Minnesotans. I contacted the mayor's office, the governor's office, and offices of several state representatives. I sought assistance from my union. I sought assistance from community advocates and members of the clergy. All were unable to assist me, and about half suggested that I file my complaint with the State Department of Human Rights. I filed my complaint with the Department of Human Rights almost 1 year ago. My case is still waiting for review.
As a concerned citizen, I support human rights expansion of Department of Rights duties. I am grateful for an opportunity to speak to you today concerning the Council on Black's Minnesota legislative proposal to increase duties and funding of the Department of Human Rights. To explain and strengthen why I strongly support the suggested proposal, I am going to submit my personal experience as follows. Mr. Chairman, My story exemplifies hundreds, perhaps thousands of women and minority business owners and entrepreneurs. My story begins July 2013 when I was contacted by a company located among us in the Twin Cities to provide a fee structure for outsourced general accounting service. I honestly believe the company was trying to get the best deal for their accounting needs. With no hesitation, I believe they were negotiating in good faith for their needs of general accounting service. We had several phone calls back and forth, meetings, and very carefully worded emails from July 26, 2013 until February 2014. This company deception came to light when I was invited to attend their bid award ceremony from Minnesota Sport Facility Authorities by claiming they would award more than 50% of their net premium revenue associated with the project to two minority and women-owned business enterprises. One of those selected supposedly my company known as ABA Tax Accounting. Shortly after being awarded by putting my company as minority-owned partner, they decided not to utilize my service. Thus, they fired my company before they hired it.
My name is Nick Muhammad. Thank you, Chair. Chair Chairman. I just want you all to consider three things as you look at this bill and understand the bureaucratic impact that it'll take. But we also have to consider the consequences of what inaction is going to produce. And the reality of the matter is there are several different Minnesotans for several different constituencies and demographic groups in the state. And this is not something that is uncommon. In fact, the president is here to promote and campaign around issues to solve some of these disparities. And even though it might seem expensive up front, the long-term implications is what we need to consider. There's been plenty of reports that are showing that not only America and Minnesota is browning, and that browning means that there's going to be an increase in the presence of minority groups. And either we fortify ourselves and build the infrastructure necessary to handle that transfer and inclusion of these groups in our political process, in our communities, in our business communities, or we sit and wait until it's upon us and we end up with a lot of historical references that we probably don't want to repeat. So in a nutshell, I liken this to similarly to some of the issues that were brought up earlier in the earlier bills around victimization, or being a victim, or being a victimization, and the expectation of justice. When you don't have anywhere to go, when you are racially discriminated against, and even in this panel, there's no diversity that we can see outside of gender. And when you're a person of color and you walk into a room and the expectation of justice is not there, as an American and as a Minnesotan, that is wrong. And we have to take accountability for that through actions of supporting bills like this. And I understand the cost, dollar-wise, but we also have to consider when we're looking at the disparities in education, in the disproportionate representation inside of the prison system, and when it comes down to employment, this measure should have been taken a very long time ago. And that's all I want you all to consider as you think about this bill.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Muhammad.
Dear Lord, thank you for an awesome day. A time, Lord, to share, a time to hear, a time to learn, and a time to act. Give us that burden now, Lord, as we leave this place, that we leave here with the dream to fulfill and the opportunity, Lord, to do.
And every day that someone tells me another week, another month, another year of this revolution, every day that someone tells me to be patient because our boys are not learning the way they're supposed to, every day that someone tries to tell me that my struggle just isn't as important as someone else's, my ancestors start calling to me, start
music is the only thing we have. So we beat continuously to our drum, to our dance, to our jig, because she can only be as great as we tell her she is. He can only be as great as we tell him he is. This can only be as great as we make it. So make it great.
This song is dedicated to him and